He began as an exiled gambler who swindled an empire with a carrot. He purchased his army's loyalty not with gold, but with wine. Zhao Kuangyin remains the only man in Chinese history forced onto the throne while drunk yet. When he tried to rewrite the rules of power with mercy, a mysterious axe ended his life. In 927 AD, the city of Luoyang was shrouded in war smoke and panic. Late on the night of the 16th of February, military officer Zhao Kuangyin heard a piercing cry in the barracks' second son had been born. The officer named the newborn Kuangyin to uphold the realm. At this time, China was trapped in the bloody whirlpool of the 5 dynasties, and 10 kingdoms' period of 5 dynasties had risen and fallen in just 33 years, with emperors averaging less than 7 years on the throne. Zhao Kuangyin's childhood was forged by swords and famine. At 12 years old, he crouched in the shadows of a granary, fingers clawing into rotting wood. It was the late autumn of 939 AD, and rebel forces had besieged Luoyang for 100 days. When defenders began butchering war horses for food, his father did something that shocked the city. Zhao Kuangyin smashed the bronze lock of the state granary with an axe, unleashing a golden cascade of millet onto soldiers reduced to gnawing human bones. "Pick it up!" His father gripped the boy's trembling wrist, forcing him to scoop blood-stained grain. Remember, the loyalty of starving ghosts is thinner than paper, but one peck of millet buys 10 lives. As the fighting outside faded, Zhao Kuangyin peered through the cracks and saw soldiers kneeling in blood, swallowing raw grain while swords lay discarded beside corpses. In that moment, the law of survival in chaotic times seared into his bones. Hunger is the true emperor. 5 years later, on a rainy night, 17-year-old Zhao Kuangyin witnessed a harsher truth. To curry favor with the Qidan, Hodzin General Du Chongwei bound 3,000 Han soldiers as human shields and drove them into enemy arrows. The boy's boots stuck to blood-soaked earth as his father's new lesson echoed. See those arrow-riddled corpses? In the game of power, the weak are always targets. When Shi Jingtan ceded the 16 prefectures of Yenyun Shilozhou to the Qidan to claim the throne, Zhao Kuangyin followed his father to serve their fourth master. They witnessed the collapse of the Hozin on the day Qidan cavalry stormed Benzing. The teenager hid in a stable, watching Lao Taizong Yelu Deguang gnaw a lamb leg on the dragon throne, grease dripping onto the imperial jade seal. "In this world," his father sneered, cleaning a blood-stained hung doll, "even the dragon throne is rented." In 947 AD, 20-year-old Zhao Kuangyin faced his coming-of-age test. To intimidate generals, Ho Han Yindi publicly boiled a remonstrating official into soup. As officials trembled in prostration, Zhao Kuangyin whispered to his son, "Remember this stench. Someday you'll learn mercy is poison, but you must master the antidote." Beneath Luoyang's snow-laden walls, the future Song Taizu gripped his sword. He did not yet know he would soon meet a fate-shaping monk in Sangyang Ruined Temple, nor foresee the drunken farce that would rewrite Chinese history a decade later. But in this moment, the chaotic world began crystallizing in his eyes like the millet his father once scattered, each grain perfectly placed in power's chess game. In 948 AD, autumn rain soaked the bluestones of Luoyang Faiyuan Temple with the stench of blood. 21-year-old Zhao Kuangyin gripped his hung doll, staring at secret letters spilled from a hidden compartment in the Sutra Library documents, detailing his meetings with rebel factions. The abbot trembled as he raised an oil lamp. "General, if you surrender now, this humble monk may plead for mercy with his majesty." The blade moved faster than words. When the young officer's hung dao pierced the monk's throat, he learned his first law of power. Some truths must be buried in blood. As the abbot's corpse collapsed onto Diamond Sutra scrolls, Zhao Kuangyin dipped his finger in blood and scrawled on the wall, "Buddha cannot save this chaotic world will." This night became his first political experiment. By dawn, investigators found only a drunken vandalism scene and a passed-out young officer curled in a corner. Exiled 1,000 miles, history books omitted the key detail the Faiyuan abbot had been the emperor's spy. On the day his exile decree was issued, Zhao Kuangyin walked barefoot through Luoyang ruined Vermilion Bird Avenue. Former comrades avoided him, while a deranged veteran chased his prison cart shrieking, "You killed the emperor's eyes, they'll claim your life!" During his 3,000-mile exile, these words coiled around his dreams like venomous snakes. Fate offered redemption outside Sanyang. On a blizzard night, an old monk dragged his frozen body into a ruined temple and thrust a coin pouch at him. Go north. Someone awaits a blood-stained blade. Zhao scoffed and threw the pouch back until metal clinked. Hidden beneath coins was the tiger tally of Guowei army. In 950 AD, Zhao Kuangyin stood on Guowei training ground, mocked as a ragged exile, until he single-handedly lifted a 60-jin cold-forged halberd and impaled the strongest centurion through armor into a post. This halberd drinks blood, he licked crimson droplets from his lips, but my wine toasts only the living. Guowei recognized the buried gem. During a snowstorm raid on a Tidan camp, Zhao calculated arrow trajectories using wind speed, slope, and enemy density on sheepskin. When the Tidan commander was nailed to his wolf head banner, soldiers began calling him the drunken strategist. In 951 AD, calamity struck Benzing. Hohan Yindi executed Guowei's entire family, hanging his infant grandson on Sunderman. As Guowei snapped his sword in rage, Zhao Kuangyin carved a carrot. Making offerings to your wife? A colleague mocked. He raised the carrot carved into a jade seal. I'm practicing how to forge destiny. That night, 30 death followers infiltrated the palace. The guard captain laughed while accepting imperial wine. Guowei dogs know how to waggles. By midnight, 500 guards lay drugged. Zhao melted their weapons into 9 bronze bells hung above city gates. At dawn, Guowei army reluctantly marched north to repel the Tidan. In Ojo, soldiers pulled a yellow robe from grain carts and draped it over their drunken commander. Upon returning victorious, Guowei pointed at the bells. Familiar? Zhao ran fingers over still warm bronze. My father bought loyalty with millet. You bought the throne with a yellow robe. Next time, he tossed the carrot seal into the moat. Someone will buy the empire with wine. As the carrot sank, he remembered the Sanyang monk's prophecy. On the anvil of chaos, a new blade of power was being forged tempered in kinsman's blood, quenched in enemy's wine soon to cleave open his era. On the 3rd day of the first lunar month, icy winds tore at the banners of Chenqiao. 34-year-old Zhao Kuangyin paced his tent. Sweat glistening in the glow of a charcoal brazier, culmination of 2 years of scheming, hung in the balance. 3 months earlier, Benzing taverns had buzzed with an eerie rhyme. 2 suns in the sky, the Denzhen shall reign. When court astronomers reported Venus shining at noon, a celestial omen of usurpation Prime Minister Fanji summoned the Danzan, commander of the palace command, to court. There, the prophesied emperor knelt weeping on vermilion steps. Your servant begs to surrender his military seal and return to farming. Fanji helped him up, sighing. A loyal man like you would never rebel. Unaware, Zhao's sleeve concealed a tiger tally, 1-4, carved from a radish. Outside the tent now, soldiers' murmurs crescendoed. Zhao stared at the wine jar laced with knockout drops, then suddenly guzzled it dry. When advisor Zhao Pu entered, he found the commander dead drunk. Only the still damp ink on the table betrayed his forgery of Tidan invasion orders. The Tidan and Beihan attack! A scout bellowed. Soldiers tore open fake letters from families. The court starves us. Your children will die begging. At midnight, Zhao Guangyi burst in tearfully. The men demand you as emperor. Outside, roars shook the night. If Zhao Dianzhen refuses the throne, we die here. Madness! Zhao Kuangyin awoke, raging, accidentally, overturning the brazier. Darkness swallowed the tent as a gold-embroidered yellow robe draped his armor. While soldiers carried him out, his dangling hand signaled storytellers planted in the crowd. At dawn, the army returned to Kaifeng. Gatekeeper Shi Shouxin opened the city, only for Zhao to brandish his tiger tally. By imperial decree, we suppress rebels. Fanjit arrived to find radish juice oozing from the bronze seal, mud still clinging to its crude carvings. The sole Resistira scholar caught without armor fell quickly. In Chongyundant, 7-year-old Chai Zongsun was placed on the dragon throne. Then, Hanlin scholar Tao Gu produced an abdication edict from his sleeve. Its silk edges yellowed a draft Zhao had drunkenly written for a colleague 6 months prior. No harm shall come to the Chai clan. Zhao smashed memorials urging extermination. Kneeling, he pressed a jade axe into the weeping child's hands. This buys your life. Alone that night in the empty palace, the new emperor gazed at the wine-stained yellow robe on his desk, Chenqiao grass seeds still clinging to its hem. Suddenly he remembered those blood-licking soldiers outside Luoyang's Luoyang granary 20 years prior. He was the one scattering grain, the entire empire quivering hungrily in his palm. On the TC festival night of 961 AD, the imperial palace in Kaifeng simmered with unease beneath the scent of wine. Zhao Kuangyin traced the cracks on his jade exia weapon that had accompanied him through a decade of war, now reduced to a sleepless knight's trinket. For 2 years since his coronation, he had dreamed nightly of yellow robes snowing down onto the shoulders of old comrades like Shi Shouxin and Wang Shenxi. Time to settle accounts, he muttered to his bronze mirror, its reflection now streaked with gray. On the 9th of July, the Imperial Guard's generals received secret edicts while celebrating their victory over Li Chongzin rebellion. Shi Shouxin laughed as he uncorked 20-year-age Nourhong wine. His Majesty must reward us richly. But upon entering Ziyingdent, their smiles froze. No musicians, no gold-only 9 rosewood tables, each bearing a bladeless jade axe. Zhao entered barefoot in a thin robe, dark circles bruising his eyes. His trembling hand raised a cup. Since that night at Chenqiao, sleep has abandoned me. After 3 rounds of wine, the emperor suddenly wept. Last night, I dreamed you draped me in yellow robes again. But awake, I wonder what if someone drapes you. The air turned to ice. Gallwhiter cup clattered to the floor, wine snaking across gold-glazed tiles. Wang Shenxi knuckles whitened, recalling Zhao's casual remark 3 days earlier while inspecting new Tronzanu crossbows. These could pierce 3 layers of armor. We pledge undying loyalty. Shi Shouxin knelt first, his forehead thudding against the floor. I doubt you not. Zhao lifted the old general, fingers brushing his pulsing neck vein. But your deputies? Your soldiers? Human hearts are like wine most flammable when drunk. In the darkest hour before dawn, the emperor produced an abacus. You command 100,000 troops, costing 2 million strings of coins yearly, 60% stolen through layers of corruption. Surrender your commands and I'll deposit 1.5 million strings directly into your coffers each year. Fair trade? Shi Shouxin laughed sharply. Your Majesty would buy us out? I buy peace. Zhao smashed a wine jar, ceramic shards cutting his palm. My blood, your winelet us brew a new age. 10 days later, the Imperial Guard underwent total restructuring. Zhao's military reforms fermented like wine yeast. Garrison rotation every 3 years. Shu Miyuan bureaucrats control troop mobilization. Generals retain only training rights. Soldiers retire at 60 with pensions. Disabled veterans receive shares in pharmacies. The masterstroke lay in the Gengshufat details. Merchant consortia now supplied garrisons, making embezzlement nearly impossible. As Shi Shouxin departed Kaifeng with cartloads of cash, gate guards whispered, they say the emperor brewed military power into wine at ages finer yearly. Asterisk. When autumn rains soaked the imperial way, Zhao finally slept soundly. Beside his pillow lay Xi's resignation letter, a dried wine stain by the seal resembling the dregs on his Chenqiao yellow robe. This Kubai wine cup would intoxicate and neutralize military ambitions for 3 centuries. The dismissing generals with wine was fundamentally a dark transaction, buying out military threats with annual payments equivalent to $1.5 billion today. But Zhao's true revolution lay in institutional design garrison rotation, civilian control of deployments, pension systems creating a framework so robust that China saw no prolonged warlordism until the Qing dynasty's 1911 collapse. On the 19th of October, restless snowflakes settled over Kaifeng Imperial Palace. 49-year-old Zhao Kuangyin sat alone in Wansui-Dan, fingertips tracing the jade axe that had fought alongside him for decades. The Chai dragon pattern on his handle gleamed in candlelight, resembling a serpent poised to burst from the blade. Your Majesty, the Prince of Jinwan has arrived, eunuch Wang Ziyan announced, his voice trembling. Zhao Guangyi strode in, snow clinging to his fox fur robe, wine fumes trailing him. As brothers locked eyes, 20 years of shared battles flickered in the candles' glow-starving masses at Luoyang Granary. The Chenqiao yellow robe, shattered wine cups from the military purge, Second brother, do you recall the winter of Shandai 7? Zhao Kuangyin suddenly asked, filling a gilded cup with amber liquor. That night at Chenqiao Yi, the wine you gave me, it was laced with knockout drops. Zhao Guangyi hand froze mid-reach. The water clock's drip drowned his throat's convulsive swallow. At the third night watch, palace maids witnessed horror. The emperor suddenly slammed his jade axe against the floor, roaring, "You've gone too far!" Candlelight cast their shadows onto a screen, Zhao Guangyi pacing like a caged beast. At the fifth watch, Wang Ziyan pushed open the door. Zhao Kuangyin lay supine on the dragon bed, left skull caved in, blood clotted in his silver hair. The jade axe rested nearby, blade glinting with bone fragments like ice shards. The emperor has passed, Zhao Guangyi rasped, clutching a pre-made edict. 7 days later, he unveiled the Golden Cabinet Pact. At his coronation, the silk document's ink still fresh enough to stain fingers. Though Zhao Guangyi claimed fraternal succession, 3 clues damned him. Zhao Kuangyin's 2 adult sons died suddenly within 5 years. Witness Wang Ziyan rose to chief eunuch. 1997 radar scans revealed blunt force trauma on the skull. Ironically, this fratricide, or regicide, secured the Song Dynasty's future. Zhao Guangyi completed southern unification, while Zhao Kuangyin's systems thwarted 319 coups until the Mongol conquest. The axe echo lingered for millennia. As Mongol horsemen crushed Linan, exiled Song descendants still debated, was that night brotherly strife, or a death-sealed transfer of power? Only the mossy stones of Wansui Dant remember Zhao Kuangyin's final bloodstain, hardening into the shape of Qinxiao Yi carrot seal. At 30, you gambled with Daoshi Chentuan on Mount Hua, the monk had warned. 20 years of war will build your dynasty, but your descendants will repay it over 3 centuries. When Jurchen invaders abducted Huizong in 1127, people discovered Jin founder Wanyan Aguda descended from the very Khitan tribes exploited in the Chenqiao Yi Kupa historical loop, or a millennia-old curse.